Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another jam-packed daily cryptocurrency market update. For those of you that are new around here, every single day at 1 p.m., we release an update similar to this, where we don't just look at the cryptocurrency markets, but we look at markets generally and try and work out where our small but very significant space is heading. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. We'll start things off always with the Bitcoin chart. And then we're going to be talking about some huge news coming out of China and how we are now seeing not only the facilitation of a Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF by a $1.3 trillion bank, which is HSBC, but we've actually seen further guidance from Hong Kong in regards to other cryptocurrencies and a kind of regulatory framework around them. We're then going to look at some clips or we'll look at some clips from a number of individuals, somebody who essentially went on CNBC to bash Bitcoin that gets absolutely destroyed and calls crypto a cult. Is this a cult? I don't really think it is. I think it's a movement. And there are cult-like people and groups, the Bitcoin maxis, for example, that exist in the crypto space. But there's still a real degree of skepticism and lack of understanding in regards to the crypto space. Crypto is far more than just Bitcoin. Blockchain is far more than just Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin was the first, and it's very special, and it's trying to do something rather different from most of the other cryptocurrencies out there in regards to challenging the traditional financial system and being an alternative money and asset. Whereas blockchain is really a technology that is changing the world. If you think of any industry that trust is needed in, well, you can eliminate that as a point of failure with blockchain. Far and wide, we speak about this all the time. And then we're going to look at a clip from the Bank of International Settlements talking about inflation and how it was brought about. Even though they blamed inflation on everything other than the increase in the money supply, it does indeed seem that inflation is a monetary phenomenon, as our kind of forefathers like Milton Friedman and such spoke about. Then we're going to look at a Gareth Soloway take, who, of course, is still very bearish on the markets. And it's highlighting a divergence between the money supply, which is actually something that we looked at quite intensively in 2022, that really gave us an indication that we didn't quite want to be back in the markets yet. But money supply is only one barometer of liquidity. There's a number of others, and we've put a chart together which shows a number of other liquidity affecting factors that seems very much in sync with the stock market and doesn't seem to be diverging. So, without further ado, guys, let's get into the video. Let's start things off with a Bitcoin chart. You guys will know the plan that we have set out for Bitcoin and the crypto space at large. Ultimately, we think that we are now in a bull market. Altcoins have had a bit more of a turbulent ride with the SEC, but we are looking at some pretty positive structure for altcoins. We looked at the total 3 yesterday. And actually, if you look at certain altcoins that have put in marginally lower lows or sort of consolidating around January's lows where we got back into the market, you'll see that actually there is quite a possibility of a technical double bottom being in play for many of these altcoins at a time when we think Bitcoin is going to do well, the stock market is going to continue to do well, and ultimately we think that's going to support these altcoins with where they're at. You know, if this isn't the bottom, it's pretty damn close, but we ultimately think it is. We certainly have got the call right for Bitcoin, the stock market, gold, and of course, little bit of turbulence with altcoins, but really that's to do with the SEC, and we think that's going to come out rather positively eventually. You know, regulations will work in the crypto space's favor in regards to it becoming a regulated institutional asset. We're seeing the trails being set ablaze by BlackRock, who are filing a Bitcoin ETF. Very likely that they're going to get that with a flurry of others. We've looked at the kind of ramifications that BlackRock and their ETF had for gold. And gold ETFs first came about in 2003. I think you had one in Australia, but 2004 in America. And they then started pushing gold as a kind of diversifier of the portfolio. Bitcoin is going to be a similar thing. I recently wrapped up an interview with Hugh Hendry. Very excited to bring that out. I love talking to interesting people, and he certainly is that. And we cover a whole range of topics, and are looking to actually do a part 2 very soon. So our assessment of the market is that you are now in a bull, not just for Bitcoin, but for stocks, which you've been very right on. And generally, you know, risk we think is actually going to do quite well under the context of a pause in rates. We know the stock market's had a terrific run. It's pulling back slightly, but this has gone, in my opinion, past the point, as many are calling for, of a bear market rally. Certainly if you look at the likes of Apple, all-time highs. Amazon's making its way there. We've really used Microsoft as a poster child for what we think is to come with this kind of structural double bottom. Ultimately, we think stock market's going to do well. We've looked at cross markets with the likes of Bitcoin and the SPY, and so on and so forth. You know, we think crypto is going to do exceptionally well under the context of sideways rates. Gold's going to new all-time highs, and we think the dollar actually looks, to me, weaker than it does stronger. And actually, that's something I touch on with Hugh in regards to de-dollarization and his thoughts on it. Very interesting interview, so do please stay tuned for that. Let's talk a little bit about some of the big major news taking place within the crypto space. And of course, we know yesterday that Hong Kong's biggest bank, $1.3 trillion HSBC, now reportedly offers Bitcoin ETFs to clients. This is a big, big step in the right direction. And Hong Kong, and even broadly now, China released the white paper. They've all been a lot more friendly to, very interesting, friendly to crypto than the likes of the SEC. And I'm going to do a whole video on actually how I think dollar dominance is going to become prevalent in the crypto market. It already is in regards to USDT and so on and so forth. There was rumors that Tether were going to earn more than BlackRock, and we'll incorporate that in the video. But I actually think that CBDCs are going to play a major role in crypto as we know it now. And of course, we've still got this whole TradFi meets crypto world that people like Quant and such are building. So China has its crypto ETF. What about America? Watch this space. While this is good for price performance, please remember, not your keys, not your coins. So yeah, there's a sovereign destroying undertone with ETFs, but for the market, it's exceptionally bullish. I like Arthur Hayes. I'd love to get Arthur on the show, along with Gareth, who will look at his comments. And of course, CZ. We are big fans of CZ. We think he's one of the shining lights in the crypto space, and he's been nothing but honourable, in my opinion, throughout all of this, honoured withdrawal, so on and so forth. But that's potentially for another video. Hong Kong rating agency HKVAC announced its virtual asset index. In addition to Bitcoin and Ethereum and stablecoins, including Wrap Bitcoin, BTCB, STE, BCH, which is Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, LTC. You're testing me now on my tickers. BNB, which is, of course, Binance's coin, Matic, which of course is Polygon, ADA, which is Cardano, Atom, which is Cosmos Hub, Phil, which is Filecoin, Near, which is Near Protocol, Algo, which is Algorand, ICP, which is Internet Computer, XRP, which of course is XRP, Doge, which is Dogecoin, DOT, which is Polkadot, WTRX, which I believe is wrapped Tron, Shiba Inu, SHIB, Tron, Link, Chainlink, Leo, obviously the Leo network, XMR, that's got to be Monero, XLM, which of course is Stellar, OKB, which is the OKX exchange, LDB, which is the Lido token, HBAR, VET, VChain, Hedera, Quant, Phantom, and EOS. Very interesting. You know, the world is moving towards crypto. This is something we have in our Twitter bio, Crypto Commander, because we are a commander in the crypto revolution. We ultimately do think this revolution is coming to pass. We're seeing advancements in it on a daily basis. The rebellion is fighting back, and we are part of the rebellion. You are going to get a chance to own part of the new financial system. I mean, how exciting is that? And if you're down in the dumps, you're upset about the market, you're looking a gift horse in the mouth, we try and help people with our Patreon actually seize the opportunity, be positioned in the right place, ultimately ready for insane price appreciation that we think is coming off the back end of this technology becoming recognized. And regulations are indeed a part of that. Let's move on to a tweet from Gareth Soloway. So this is one reason why he still thinks this isn't a, quote, new bull market. And I mean, you'd have to take really new all-time highs out to say that this is a bull. I mean, it depends what your time frames are. So I really define a bull and a bear by just simple Dow theory, and sort of trends and how they work. I think the stock market, when it rallies 20%, traditionally has been called a bull market, certainly off the lows. And I wouldn't say that we're in a bear in regards to the stock market. Maybe crypto and certainly altcoins, you could say that. But generally our assessment is, and we've been very right on this, that you're going to see that continuation. And we've got targets across the board that project that. We've got macro reasons. We've got everything. But Gareth, who's a very, very popular analysis of course, is highlighting here the divergence between the money supply, which is a barometer of liquidity, and the stock market. Very right to do so, because we know that there is a pretty damn good correlation between the money supply. We use M2, and M2's seen the fastest collapse, I think, in history, and the stock market. You know, you can see, I mean, when people say stocks are overvalued, are they, or are they just in line with the money supply? I don't know, you tell me. So there's not really been any kind of historical context for the money supply doing this, but is money supply the only form of liquidity? Well, it's a very important one. It's one reason why we were bearish on 2022 as we saw this turn and really aggressively trend down. But there will come a bottom for this. And if this bottom comes in, and in my opinion, the Fed are going to have to go back to propagating and holding everything up again. There'll be so long they can continue to do this. Will they keep the pressure on until things break? Well, we'll see. But that pressure doesn't have to come in the form of higher hikes. It can come in the form of keeping rates at 5.2. So in the topic of money supply and liquidity, and this being one reason that the money supply doesn't match up with the movement for the price, markets, first of all, are forward-looking. So they're looking at where the money supply is going to be. If you look at this, which is a combination of the Fed's balance sheet, the repo market, and the kind of treasury, you can see this, which could be used as a kind of Fed liquidity tool, supports the kind of rally that you've had, which is very interesting. You know, these big drops have correlated, even the dip that we're having now. So, although I think Gareth's very right to bring this up, I think there's a number of different angles in regards to liquidity that you can look at, and this is certainly one of them. You know, we know debt. If debt to GDP rises, typically, you know, what is the money system backed by? Debt. And there'll be a devaluation of the money based on the debt that's issued. You can kind of guess that the stock market will be going in its favor. So there's a number of ways to look at money supply. Well, there's only really one way to look at money supply, but there's a number of ways to look at liquidity, and this is certainly one. So we actually think that this supports. The money supply certainly doesn't support, but when you're doing analysis, you need to look at multiple reasons. And I also know that Gareth has been quite public in saying that 30K would be that level where I don't know if he said he'd flip to bullish or what his take on it is. But we are very much on it. We think that this, again, 41 to 43K, 41K for the inverse head and shoulders, 43K for the bull flag. And if you want to take the bull flag all the way from 15K, you could be looking at $51,000 Bitcoin. You're going to see this in the next 6 to 12 months, guys. That's my take. And I think there's a number of things that support this. Ultimately, we are long and strong and bullish on the crypto space. Despite the money supply, you know, just like the headlines, despite the headlines, we ultimately think, and the stock market is showing us, that it's doing well. Gold's been a little bit tricky, but gold is literally at the precipice of all-time highs. Once it takes that, you know, it's off to the races, and Bitcoin will likely bask in that shower. Let's move on to a clip from Augustin, who is the head of the Bank of International Settlements, talking about inflation.
There was also the recognition that an important part of the increase in inflation had to do with the stimulative, with the effects of the stimulative impulse that was given at the time of the pandemic and with the Russia-Ukrainian war through fiscal and monetary policy. And this was combined also, I would say, with the more difficulty in aggregate supply to respond to the impulses of aggregate demand. There was.
Wait, are they admitting that the central banks are the great manipulators of markets, just like they manipulated them with the huge amount of inflation that took place in regards to the money supply? You can actually see this very clearly demonstrated. They're also the proprietors of the market selling off. They're the proprietors of housing, people not being able to pay their mortgages now, and so on and so forth. They are the great manipulators. Central banks, I do not believe, are good for the world. Broad statement, but I'm going to make it. You know, I think that part of ideologies that have proven to fail in the past is controlling everything, and one of that is banking, because it just doesn't work. You know, the markets are a free moving, or should be a free moving mechanism. And then I just want to love and leave you on this clip that really summarizes, this is the Black Swan author, and him talking about crypto. The lack of understanding with so many people out there. I can't tell you how many macro, ex-Goldman Sachs, you know, and analyzers are just so full of it. I mean, it's so bad. And certainly their track records speak for it. The people I'm interested in, the people that have a good track record that, you know, can back up what they're saying. It doesn't even matter if they're wrong, as long as they, you know, taken the stance on it for reasons other than actually not understanding what's going on and trying to make it up. If we don't understand something on this channel and somebody asks us a question, we'll just say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't really know enough about it. Just like with the whole Russia coup situation, everyone was asking and we were like, I really have no idea. I think there's a lot of propaganda on both sides. But let's play this because this quite summarizes the nature of the skeptics for the crypto market. And actually, I think this is a pretty good reason to be bullish.
I think it was 9 or 10. Yeah. Anyway, so here we are now, call it 13, 14 years in.
Yes.
This is a very long
but think about it.
speculation if this is that,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I'm not.
But let's look at the crypto. Is it being used for real transactions? No. It is a cult.
In parts of the world, it is the same. The unbanked or people in very high, where they make money and inflation is 30 or 40%, and they have a cell phone and they're able to own something that doesn't depreciate immediately.
Well, it did exactly the opposite of its mission.
So did everything, by the way.
Because it collapsed when inflation
collapsed to 30,000, but people were negative at $10.
You can look at any stocks that reached $100 has started at $1 or $2. So
and a lot of those
when
collapsed.
you look at things, you don't look at the past. You look at the drawdown you can experience if you own it when it's already mature. So the one, it's not an inflation hedge. Two, the thing is, it may be good for transaction, for petty transaction, small amount of money, but it's not good for real money laundering because it's very traceable. And three, it is pretty much the first time in the history of the world we have had a cult, cult coupled with a financial instrument.
What do you make of BlackRock now trying to pursue with an ETF? You have Citadel, you have a number of Wall Street players who, by the way, for a very long time actually were very negative, skeptical, just like you.
Yes. I started positive on Bitcoin because I was disappointed with the Federal Reserve policy. But then I realized that you're going from Caribbean to Scylla, in other words, from something bad to something vastly worse. At least with Federal Reserve, we have transparency, we know what's going on, we can influence it. There's a system. But with crypto, tend to concentrate among big players, and it is how can I explain it? It's distracting, and effectively, what has happened thanks to crypto is we're going to have Fed now rolling out next month. We're going to have the central banks are focusing on making transaction both easier and faster for individuals.
Wow. Whole lot of nothing. So yeah, guys, that is your daily cryptocurrency market update. A bit of an interesting one. We've covered all the major news taking place. Cryptocurrency market looks like it's probably going to have quite a good day today. Certainly looking at stock futures, they are up. Gold slightly down, dollar down. I've not looked at any FX pairs in a while. It's weird because I actually prefer to trade equities and FX over crypto. I never thought I'd find myself in that situation. Yeah, the moves are bigger in crypto, but the volatility also is. And I think when you go from a smaller sized account to a larger sized account, those losses mean a hell of a lot more, which is maybe the wrong mindset to have. The losses should always mean more, no matter what size your account. So on that note, guys, I'm going to love and leave you. If you've enjoyed the content, like, it's appreciated. So as a comment, please do check out the Patreon in the description and have a triumphant Tuesday, guys. See you in the next one.